Hi guys, welcome to week 3 of our studies into the book of James. How are you all doing? It's been a strange few weeks, so I hope you're all coping okay. How did you get on with random acts of kindness over the past few weeks? Did any of you ask yourself what would Jesus do when you were faced with a decision to make? I would love to hear from you all about your experiences if you want to get in touch. Well, today we're going to be exploring chapter 3, and as we saw in the previous chapters, 1 and 2 introduced us to the idea of how our actions demonstrate the reality of our beliefs. In chapter 3, James continues to explore this idea, focusing this time on words and wisdom. Firstly, James tackles our words, saying, "Don't be in any rush to become a teacher, my friends. Teaching is highly responsible work. Teachers are held to the strictest standards, and none of us is perfectly qualified. We get it wrong nearly every time we open our mouths. If you could find someone whose speech was perfectly true, you'd have a perfect person in perfect control of their life." James is explaining here that our teachers and leaders have extra responsibility. They are accountable, and therefore a godly example is essential. Each leader must set and maintain a high godly example. But we all stumble, and James includes himself here when he says we get it wrong nearly every time we open our mouths. Stumbling isn't something deliberate. It's just our best endeavours are imperfect and we fall short. James continues, "A bit in the mouth of a horse controls the whole horse. A small rudder on a huge ship is in the hands of a skilled captain, sets the course in the face of the strongest winds. A word out of the mouth may seem of no account, but it can accomplish nearly anything or destroy it. It only takes a spark, remember, to set off a forest fire. A careless or wrongly placed word out of your mouth can do that. By our speech, we can ruin the world, turn harmony to chaos, throw mud on a reputation, send the whole world up in smoke and go up in smoke with it, smoke right from the pit of hell." The tongue is a powerful thing, and James illustrates that here, explaining that if we're able to control the tongue, it gives us power over the whole body. Our words to someone can uplift them or devastate them, depending on what we choose to say. A good example of how powerful the use of words can be is all our current political leaders and what they're choosing to say when they're making announcements to our nations. Their words could create panic and fear, or they could create calm and stability. The uncontrolled words and wisdom of the world can easily lead to destruction, which is why James then says, "This is scary. You can tame a tiger, you can't tame a tongue. It's never been done. The tongue runs wild, a wanton killer. With our tongues we bless God the Father, and with the same tongues we curse the very men and women he made in his image. Curses and blessings out of the same mouth. My friends, this can't go on. A spring doesn't gush fresh water one day and brackish the next, does it? Apple trees don't bear strawberries, do they? Raspberry bushes don't bear apples, do they? You're not going to dip into a polluted mud hole and get a cup of clear, cool water, are you?" The tongue is an unbelievably powerful tool that can be used for both good or evil because it cannot be fully controlled. In fact, James insists that the tongue is untamable. We have no hope of controlling our words on our own as sinful human beings. However, all things are possible through God. James explains that our words should be both consistent and constructive. Blessing and cursing shouldn't come out of the same mouth. It's wrong and sinful. We wouldn't expect salt water and fresh water to come out of the same spring together. And it wouldn't be normal to see apple trees bearing strawberries or raspberry bushes growing apples, would it? Yet speaking both blessings and cursings with the same tongue is normal behaviour for us as sinful humans. Our words reflect our spiritual state. James closes off this chapter by addressing the subject of wisdom, saying, "Do you want to be counted wise, to build a reputation for wisdom? Here's what you do. Live well, live wisely, and live humbly. It's the way you live, not the way you talk, that counts. Mean-spirited ambition isn't wisdom. Boasting that you're wise isn't wisdom. It's the furthest thing from wisdom. It's animal cunning, devilishly conniving. Whenever you're going to look better than others or get the better of others, things fall apart and everyone ends up at each other's throats. Real wisdom, God's wisdom, begins with a holy life and is characterised by getting along with others. It's gentle and reasonable, overflowing with mercy and blessings, not hot one day and cold the next, not two-faced. You can develop a healthy, robust community that lives right with God and enjoys the results only if you do the hard work of getting along with each other, treating each other with dignity and honour. By insisting that wisdom is as wisdom does, James is echoing his points from chapter 2, where he indicated that what a person does is a strong indication of what they actually believe. But more specifically in this chapter, James says wise people lead lives full of good works done in the humility of wisdom. James agrees with Solomon in Proverbs that wisdom always requires humility. The wisdom of the world is therefore very different from true heavenly wisdom. James is clear, worldly wisdom does not come from above, and is in fact built on an entirely different view that actually opposes God's truth. Instead of humility, worldly wisdom leads every person to make their lives about themselves. James is teaching us that this is not the way to live. When we make life all about ourselves, it leads to all the disorder, chaos and evil we see in the world. Heavenly wisdom teaches us to live life very differently. Because we trust God to provide what we need, we can let go of envy and selfish ambition. We can lead lives of peace, gentleness, reasonableness, kindness and more. But these things cannot be achieved by us alone. We need God's help and power to live this way. James has taught us through this chapter that to live well, we must live wisely. We must use our words to encourage others, not to discourage them. We must live humbly and love everyone always. We must ensure that both our actions and our words bring glory to God and that His presence radiates out through the way we live our lives. Next time we'll be studying James chapter 4. Until then, guys, take care and remember, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. Bye.